Hello!
Good evening.
Mixed feelings this week.
Yes.
Yes. Starting with these guys. I'm so happy the NRL decided, for the sake of preventing injuries, to make State of Origin 40 minutes long instead. Queensland winning 26-6 was a really good way to bounce back. How good? Okay, the bit's over. I'm not fully certain what this game was.
Yeah, it just goes to show that kicking is still a very important part of football.
Yes.
Another team found that out on the weekend as well.
Whoever paid Zach Lomax to miss those goals deserves a state funeral when they die. They are a hero.
Uh, why didn't they just swap to somebody else when he missed a couple? Give it to Latrell or
I would
something.
give it to myself because Cleary was nursing a groin injury
Yes.
the entire time. You still have him. You have Stephen Crichton who kicks the club,
Yeah,
and we all know how clutch he is.
Yeah.
It was a weird decision to keep going with him. I don't know what the thought process was.
Well, it's Laurie Daly. There probably weren't any thought processes.
That's very true. All right. But yeah, Queensland win. Against all logic, they win. I don't know how this happened. Random immortal performance from Kurt Capewell. Where was this?
When he's going like a bastard playing for his own club, and he becomes the best.
He was good defensively.
He's like the best defensive second rower in the competition in the Origin.
It's just insane.
And he scored a try.
Yeah.
That was Kurt squared. That was set up by Kurt Mann.
Yeah. How good. We need all the Kurts.
Can
we get Kurt Gidley out of retirement?
It was New South Wales.
Ah, damn. What are Kurts are there? I actually don't know any off the top of my head.
He's a lot older than Kurt Gidley, actually. So
much older than Kurt Capewell.
Just looks much older than Kurt Capewell.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, Kurt Capewell had a great day. He scored a try, like he said, over 100 metres, 4 tackle breaks, 37 tackles, 2 misses, which is absurd for how his season has been going.
Very, very good.
Hammer scored a double on the wing, which I think is probably his best position. I think that's fine for him.
I thought Tom Dearden had a pretty...
I thought the combo he had with Munster looked okay.
Look, and it can only get better with more.
At least you can hope. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Outside that, it's just... I think it's more talking about how New South Wales lost this game rather than how Queensland won it, because that first half was abysmal.
Yeah, I know. Queensland controlled that half of football. But I think it almost was New South Wales almost reverting to kind, like they started to niggle, they started to, instead of playing football.
And that's probably because they thought, we're going to win anyway, we may as well have some fun doing it, and all of a sudden they were 20 points down.
My thought pattern is the only thing that changed was Jerome Luai.
You reckon? Stefano came in as well.
I know, but he's not a noted or notorious, like,
he's a noted
chatter or something.
He's a noted, not great character guy in general.
I know, but Luai, I mean, you could see there was a couple of things that he started. There was,
This is true. However, I don't think we as Queenslanders can say that because Cameron Munster is just as bad as he is.
No, I don't think he didn't do that in this game, I don't think.
There was a few little jarring moments, but there wasn't anything overly... I'm expecting it to boil over in Game 3 because
I was surprised Stephen Crichton got in the middle of someone, but I think he's normally a good guy and doesn't really... Maybe he was trying to settle the... calm down.
He's captain at club level, right? He's a good captain. He's standing up for his players.
Yeah, but also, if it's something stupid, I think he might have been just trying to pour oil on troubled waters or something, but hopefully that's...
He plays with Reed Marnie. He has to deal with his teammates doing stupid crap.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, New South Wales, that's the thing. Their second half was great.
Oh, it was
a really good match.
You could see, obviously, they got a rocket. It was probably Craig Bellamy, to be fair.
Probably.
At half time.
Wasn't Dean Young, that's for sure.
No. Or Laurie. Yeah, at half time, I think, they got a rocket and they responded.
They responded very well. Yeah. But full credit to the Queensland goal line defence for that last 10 minutes. It was admirable the way they were just running around like a bunch of rabid dogs.
And they just kept turning up for each other all the time.
That was what was missing in the first game. It was here now.
It was
great to see.
And it was so good in that last bit where New South Wales still had a chance, and then I don't know who hit Dylan Edwards, but knocked the ball out right at that last bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was great.
That was when we knew it was over.
What a moment that was.
Yeah.
The win in Perth, which they haven't done before, that's
That's it
great.
too.
That's really, really good.
I think there's this thing about rain.
It possibly is. Rain has been such a big factor this
It's a
year.
great leveler of teams,
Yeah, it's
apparently.
been really,
Yeah.
really strange.
Really good team seems to struggle a bit,
Yeah.
and maybe we prayed for rain in New South Wales.
I feel like you have to not be remiss to say that New South Wales did technically score more tries in this game. So in general play, they were the better team. It's just goal kicking that cost them.
Yeah,
But you still lost. So
the goal kicking is still part
it's
of
still
your game.
incredibly
So
important,
yeah,
So you lost sucks to suck, I suppose.
Queenslander.
Game 3. On we go. How good. And that moves us into round 16, which was an interesting round, to say the least. There were some very good games. There was one very good day. Saturday was
So that was a great day of
a great
football.
day of football. And we got led into it by a bit of an odd game for what I expected with the Tigers Raiders.
Very defensive game.
Very defensively minded game, which means I have to give a bunch of credit to the Tigers for hanging in there against the Raiders.
Yeah, they did well. And
Very good.
it's still, with 5 minutes to go, could have gone either way. The Tigers were really punching home, and they just couldn't quite finish it off.
Yeah.
Right. So 3 tries to 2. Not a.
I think it comes down to this game was an experiment to see how Latu Fainu would fit into the halves because they started it with Heath Mason, and Latu I think came on after about 25 minutes and played like a ball playing 13 role, and then halfway through the second half they pull Heath Mason and move Latu into the halves, and he looked really good for mine. I was quite impressed from what I saw with him.
Didn't seem to lose a beat, did they? I mean,
it's like a long-term 7 now, I think, and that's a good thing. You pair him with Luai.
Yeah,
I don't mind it.
And look, the Tigers, the effort is there. You can see
Oh,
the effort
absolutely.
is there every week. While some of the polish isn't always there, the effort is always there. And with that, you're going to know that the wins will come.
Exactly. The wins, they're going to come at some point this season for the Tigers. It's starting to get a little late for them to make a push, but they can play spoiler for a lot of
They
teams.
could definitely do that. We know they can attack as well because they've got good attacking footballs in this side. So.
I'm very impressed because the Tigers didn't complete very well in this game. I think they completed at 68% or something. Their ability to hold on, like to hold the Raiders to 16 in the first half was actually very, very impressive.
And they held them to 0 in the second half.
Yeah. And they got very close to winning.
They did.
They got very, very close to winning.
I think the Canberra fans might have been biting nails off and stuff towards the end.
I feel like they have form because the Faders tag is
so it is.
It makes sense for them to be like, oh no, here we go again. But they held on.
They did hold on.
And I think they did. I think the big thing for the Tigers was that they managed to take it to the Raiders forwards, especially because, we talk ad nauseum about Terrell May every week and how good he is. But the return of Fonua Pole this game, I think, was massive for them. He worked so well as like a glue there between like your Sione Fainus and your Jack Birds and Alex Twals and these sorts of guys. He's another like 45 minutes of just bruising football, Moses Leota style. Yeah. I think it complements the rest of the forward pack really well. Yeah. And on the Fainus, I talked about Latu before. Sam Weller is progressing very, very nicely. He's looking to build a good combination with Luai. I think Sione is also working well as a bench forward for them. They've got very, very good young forwards. So it's just a matter of the spine putting it together later on in the season and going into next season, because that's what this year is.
It is. And look, nobody thought they were necessarily going to be a force this year. I mean, they're still finding their...
It's still a rebuild.
Yeah.
It's still a rebuild.
They're still finding where they fit. They're still finding how each player plays. Give them this year and see how they go, which is why Benji's probably not under pressure.
Yeah, I think Benji will be okay. You can see them playing with effort now, which is what they've been missing the past few years. That's improvement. That means the playing group believes in what the team is trying to do. So that's a good sign. However, it does suck for Gerald Skelton, whose error directly led to the Ethan Strange try, and they lose by a try. So that one kind of sucks. But I'm not taking anything away from the Tigers. I thought overall they played very, very well.
They did. And look, Canberra did what they needed to win.
Exactly.
Simple as that.
It's weird. I looked at like teams' records coming off the bye this season. Where you think, oh yeah, they're coming off a week's rest. They're going to be fresh. Teams are 50-14 this year. It's almost 50-50 whether you win or lose off the bye. Whether that is a function of the bye making teams rusty or just how equal the leaguers this year. I'm not fully sure, but it's just a weird phenomenon.
You sometimes see that in finals football, like the team that gets the week off can sometimes be a little bit slow to start.
Exactly, yeah.
So
It's they're one in a very Raiders way, where like if you look at the stat sheet, you think, oh yeah, they lost. They were behind in nearly every statistic besides completion rate, but they just managed to hold in there. And that comes as a function of Joe Tarpney being amazing, because he is. We love Joe Tarpney. He's just improving with age. He's evolving his game really, really well. But I'll also say Josh Papali'i has been surprisingly really good over the past month
it's
or
nice
so.
to see because Josh, he's always been a one club man. He loves the Raiders. He's never going to go anywhere else, and he's turned back the clock a little bit. To be fair, he's running hard.
He's
playing.
playing.
He's doing all
50 minutes a week. That's unheard of for a guy his age and stature. And it's not like it's like he's good for 20 minutes and then's a passenger for the rest of the time. He's effective
pretty much
the
the whole
entire time.
That's it.
It's very, very impressive.
It is. And good luck to him. I hope he finishes his career with the Raiders and does really, really well.
And I think, he's always going to be one of the league's good guys. Everyone's going to remember him as like one of their favourite players. I think at least I am.
And for this is where the idea that I still agree with. And I think it was something that Phil Gould brought up a bunch of years ago, saying that if you played 10 years at a club and you're going to be a one club man, you should get, say, a 10% discount on your salary. Yeah. I think that's fair. That's for loyalty. I think that's important because at the moment there's none. There is no loyalty. It's where the money is. That's where we all go.
But unfortunately for them, it is still a job as well as a game. They have to make money doing a job.
Absolutely. But the club should be able to pay less or get a 10% off for their salary cap. So if they're paying them.
But that means the club is getting rewarded for what a player is doing, not the other way around. I don't think that's necessarily fair to the player.
But if a club's been able to retain a player for that long, I think they're doing a good job too.
Yeah,
so
then you're getting to the argument, is it the club doing it? Is the player doing it? That's why it's such a grey area, which is why I think they haven't done that yet. I know it's been floated a couple of times. I just don't think it's a great idea.
I still like the idea. I just think, because we don't get many of them today, it's good to see if they get rewarded by the club or player, right? Gets rewarded. Or say, for instance, the club pays 800 instead of 900 or whatever, and the NRL fronts up the other amount
of it. Maybe. I don't know. There might be a right way to go about it. It obviously hasn't been found yet, but I don't hate the idea of rewarding loyalty.
There's not much of it around these days, and those who stay at a club, some of them even stay for less money. And they're the ones who deserve it.
I think sometimes players are also forced out by clubs.
Oh yeah,
that's an issue. That's an issue of loyalty on the club's part.
Yeah, I understand that. So it has to be. There's a bit of this partnership, I suppose.
Yeah, you have to try and find some sort of middle ground between the two, which is nigh on impossible in my opinion. So I don't know.
Like Matty Bowen stayed with the Cowboys until
he was forced out by the club. Funnily enough.
Yeah, well, but he was there for a long time.
He was there for a long time. Yeah,
Paul Bowman was there for a long time. We got a few people like that who probably should have been given a dispensation. But anyway, that's kind of off topic.
I guess maybe in terms of players, maybe it's stuff that they get after football that's the equaliser there.
Maybe
that might be it.
But anyway, well done, Canberra. You keep finding ways to win.
It's frustrating, but it's fun, I suppose.
You're one of my correct tips, at least. All three of them.
Yeah. This week was tough, and that got started with this game. The first game on the Saturday, where Penrith went down to Mount Smart Stadium and kicked the Warriors in the teeth.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Well, I have a theory of what happened, but you don't seem to agree with me on that one.
Write the Panthers off at your own peril.
Yeah, I think, look, Panthers played well and deserved their win. I'm not arguing that point. But when you lose two players midway through the first half, basically, and you have to reshuffle your whole back line for one of them, and your forward pack for another, it throws everything kind of out.
Yeah, I do get where you're coming from.
And like Dallin is a meter eater, right? He always runs hard. He's a good try scorer, all that sort of stuff. You lose his attack. You lose Mariotta's
Right near
Sorry,
core, you mean?
I keep calling him that for some reason. Near Corey's um, punch in the second row because he's a really good foil for
He's been working in the middle most weeks these days
yeah,
because they have so many of the young second
right.
rowers coming through. They've been using him as the middle forward. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
And look, while Penrith are still missing Origin players, they got to train missing those Origin players.
True.
Whereas I kind of gave the analogy to the Cowboys in the 2017.
There you go.
Got about eventually grand finals
Yeah,
when they lost
I hate talking about it too. Don't worry.
and that, when they lost a forward in the first 2 minutes to a broken leg,
Yes,
and
that's
then
really.
everything stuffed up there, the rotation and all that sort of stuff. It would have happened for the Warriors as well. Not that they would use that as an excuse for that loss, um, but it can be a reason that kicks in.
That's
Okay,
yeah.
a little bit.
I guess that's
I think
true.
Penrith deserves it. I also think one of their players deserved to be off the park for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that one was pretty blatant. The Scott Sorensen one was really bad. I'm glad they picked up on it in the match review committee, but something should have been done about it
On field,
because it took Dallin and Lesniak out of the game.
and it was a classic hip drop. If
It
you
was
look at it.
it was deliberate. Like
Yeah,
it was very, very classical hip drop
yeah,
mechanism. I'm very frustrated they missed it,
yeah.
to be
So,
perfectly honest.
and that's not great. But, I don't think that's the deciding factor. I just think Penrith seemed to have a bit more energy when they were playing.
They played like they wanted it more. They were
Yeah.
the more desperate team in this because they need to be.
Doesn't normally happen down Mount Smart. It's pretty much a graveyard for a lot of
Yeah,
teams.
that's what makes
So,
it more
yeah.
impressive.
So I think Penrith did a good job.
Yeah,
They like I said, they played with a lot of verve. They played with a lot of energy.
they've picked that up a lot in the past month or so, and I think that that's most like what's the word materialized in the form of Moses Leota and how good he's been in the past month. He's really, really picked up as the sort of James Fisher Harris replacement they were hoping they had, and he's been churning out 150, 160 meters a week and eating through tackles. He's just been very, very good, and I'm quite impressed. Alrighty, as you can see, I have sent Dad to the sin bin because he has other things to do. So now it's just me talking to myself. I think in terms of individual performances for this game, I brought up Moses Leota before. I thought he's been excellent. Brad Schneider, I thought, really woke up in this game. He was great, had 3 try assists, 460 kick meters. He ran 117 meters. He's been really, really good. But I think the big talking point when it comes to Penrith right now is the development of Blaise Talangi because they really needed a good number two option to work with Nathan Cleary so it's not him doing everything by himself. And now they have it. He's getting better and better as the weeks go on. He's guiding the team around really well now. It's good to see in terms of being optimistic about the future of the Penrith Panthers, especially in the next few years, as to whether their premiership window is still open. I thought Liam Henry played really well. Liam Henry also got suspended for a few weeks for doing a crusher the week I traded him into my fantasy team. So thanks for that. But he came back. He looked really good. He's always been like a big workhorse for Penrith. He locks up the middle really well. Also, in the forward, shout out to Luron Pataya. None of his stuff really stands out on the stat sheet, but if you watch him play, you can tell he's like really, really running. He looks like a good future footballer. I'm just hoping they manage to keep him and keep developing him because they got something good there. As Penrith tend to, they seem to have the best development system in the NRL when it's not being poached by the rest of the league, that is. Um, that's not to take anything away from the Warriors, though. I thought the Warriors played fairly well in this game. It's just they seemed a little bit out enthused, like I said before. They didn't play as desperately as Penrith were. And maybe that comes as a function of Penrith needing to continue to win, and the Warriors really don't. But you still don't like to see a team be thoroughly out enthused. Um, in terms of performances, the usual suspects. It's always the same when it comes to the Warriors. It's Aaron Clark and those young second rowers are carrying that forward pack through most teams. I don't think Fisher Harris has been the forward that they hoped he would be, but he is coming back off an injury. He's still probably a little bit like off the pace. Hopefully he can continue to get better as the weeks go on, and by the time finals come around, he's back to what we know James Fisher Harris is. It was a weaker showing, I thought, from Luke Metcalf. which is a little bit frustrating because we know how good he is. However, he was running behind a bit of a beaten pack this week. So he just maybe that's just a function of him not being able to use his running game as much as he has in past weeks. And his kicking game hasn't really made up for it. So hopefully he can find a way to work around this sort of situation because I doubt it's the last time the Warriors are going to face this sort of resistance, especially when it comes to finals football. Everyone is going to be going at 110%, including their opposition. So he needs to find a way to get his team out of trouble in a way that isn't just his running game. That is the way that the Warriors become premiership favourites for mine, is if he can prove himself to be a good game manager as well as the phenomenal athlete that he is. I'm not worried about them. I think they'll be fine. They're still in the top four. I think they're probably going to finish in the top four. Where? I have no idea. The Panthers leapfrog into the top eight. They're coming. Be careful. You can't write these guys off. We know what they are capable of. This is a warning to the entire NRL. If you sleep on Penrith, they will destroy you. You need to keep being you need to keep playing like they're the defending premiers despite how poor their season has been. You can't pretend that they're not what they are. So that's what the Warriors did here. I feel like they didn't play with enough effort and then got outplayed thoroughly, really, which is good for Penrith, I suppose. Moving on to part two of the stupid Saturday. Dolphins Knights. I knew they had a shot here. I told you they had a shot here. The defense really, really got in the face of first-time captain Isaiah Katala and all of the other playmakers that this team has. Nearly any other team that concedes 32 tackles inside their own 20 to the Dolphins gets 40 put on them. They held them to 20, which is made even more impressive by the fact that A, Dane Gagai got sin bin for 10 minutes, and B, they lost Fletcher Sharp to the equivalent of a car crash injury. So this game is huge for the Knights. Is it a function of the Dolphins taking them too lightly? Maybe. That's not a good look. Maybe that is a function of Katoa being young still and being a first-time captain. They were missing Felice Kafusi, who, as we know, is this sort of hard-nosed, no-nonsense sort of guy. I think it's not a good look for the Dolphins, but I'm not overly concerned. You learn from these sorts of things. As long as they never do it again for the rest of the season, they'll be fine. In terms of performances for the Dolphins, Herbie Farnworth did his usual thing of being Herbie Farnworth. Man, he's good. I'm getting sick of talking about him, but you can't ignore what he's doing. He's putting together one of the best seasons a centre has ever had. And I want to keep highlighting that sort of thing because I feel like in terms of rugby league media, a lot of the time you'll talk about a player for 5, 6 weeks when they're in the middle of a really good stretch of football, and that stretch can keep going, but they'll stop talking about it, and that takes away from appreciating how good this particular player is. And it's happened multiple times, even this year, I think, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it's incredible what Herbie Farnworth is doing. However, he did lose his streak, so I imagine Duo is going to come down and kidnap him somewhere in the next 3 to 5 business days. I thought the hammer looked fine. Obviously, backing up off Origin, he's going to be a little bit tired. But yeah, he's going to be a little bit tired, and that's shown by him falling back into the sort of bad habits of going missing and not being as active in positional play towards the back half of this game. So I'm going to pin that on Origin and not on him, but it's not a good look. Uh, Also, losing Jack Bostock sucks. Losing into an ACL injury sucks the worst. So that it really does. It's really bad because I love Jack Bostock. I think he's a great player. I think he has a good career in the NRL ahead of him, especially in this system. It's just knee injuries like this can seriously derail the early part of someone's career. And we've seen it happen multiple times. So I just hope we're not looking at Tau Moga 2.0 here. It was a solid debut, I thought, for Oblick's Taufa, who played for 22 minutes. He made 16 tackles, ran 60 meters. He did fine. Uh, it's just a little bit frustrating, I think, especially for Dolphins fans who've seen what they've done the past two games, putting 50 back to back, and then coming up against a Newcastle team that has been struggling and not being able to put them away. It's not a good look. And speaking of Newcastle, man, what a performance. What a performance from these guys. I'm so impressed by how they continually manage to have such a good defense, especially their goal line defense, I think. It's been the best in the competition, but because their attack has been less than stellar, no one really has talked about how good their defense is. And that's something I think you should be able to credit Adam O'Brien for because his entire tenure, their defense has been quite good. It's just a matter of sometimes offensively the structure is a bit predictable. It wasn't in this game. They looked really active, and Kalen Ponga looked really active. And that's really good because the entirety of the first half of this season, he was always looking fairly passive. Whether he was carrying an injury or not, I'm not sure. I know there were rumors about, I think, a rib cartilage injury a month or so ago, but it's good to see him finally looking like he wants to be in and around the ball. And good stuff happens around Kalen Ponga. We know this. We know how good a player he is. And alongside him was the returning Bradman Best, who I thought played excellently. I think we tend to forget how good Bradman Best is because of the injuries. The best ability is availability. So if you're not healthy enough, people aren't going to notice you because you're not on the field as much. If he can stay healthy, he's a top 3 center in the league for mine. So if he can stay doing this, if he can stay running for 200 meters a game and breaking 5 tackles and having solid defensive decisions, there's stuff to like for Newcastle here. Jaden Brayley played, I think, his first 80-minute game of the season. I thought he looked pretty good. And once again, they have this completely ridiculous game-winning try for, I think, the second time in 3 weeks. It's very Newcastle. I don't know. I don't know what to think of Newcastle because I'd completely written them off, and now they come out and beat the Dolphins, who are the form team of the competition. All of a sudden, I'm thinking they defend really well. If they can get their attack going, they're a good team. They could make the finals because they're by no means out of the race for the 8 just yet. I can't make heads or tails of either of these teams, really. So I guess we will see how these guys go. Although I will thank Newcastle for not having to make me search through the chronicles of rugby league history for a team that scored 50 plus in 3 straight weeks. You have my gratitude. Unlike the Melbourne Storm. Tell you what, the Rabbits were close. They were close. They scored more tries and lost in a game where Latrell Mitchell was playing. I feel like I've seen this movie before. Maybe he's cursed. I don't know. In this game, however, I thought he was excellent. He ran 130 meters, 3 line break assists, 4 try assists, 4 tackle breaks, 625 kick meters. He is the catalyst behind this team. Alex Johnston scores 4, continues to work towards Ken Irvin's record. He's going to break it this season if the spine stays healthy because we know how often they like to go down that left side, and it worked really well in this game specifically. Keon Kaloamatangi, after being in doubt with a broken face, punched out yet another great performance where he ran 26 times for 240 meters, 35 tackles, 1 miss. What he is doing is just as impressive as some of the other forwards in the competition, but no one talks about it for reasons I've yet to fathom. Maybe it's because the other big personality on the team is Latrell Mitchell and he gets most of the spotlight, but you can't ignore these guys. I thought Souths were good in this one. I thought they played quite well. 84% completion. They only missed 30 tackles, which I think is their lowest since round 6. Unfortunately, you can also blame the loss on Latrell as well as them being so close because it was his goal kicking that cost them here. They sit in 16th right now, which I think is a gross misrepresentation of how good this team actually is. because they have more wins than at least two of the teams above them. I think their for and against is better than a couple. They should be sitting in about 11th or 12th. But even then, I don't think that's fair to how good this team is. They just need everyone to stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, they'll make the top eight. I can guarantee that. They just need that to work. In terms of Melbourne, this was not a great performance from them, I thought. I didn't think they were great at all. They should have, that period of the first 20 minutes, they should have been up 20-0. But after they scored two tries, they just kind of stopped. They stopped, respecting the ball, I suppose is the best way to put it. They kept making boneheaded errors. They kept giving away stupid penalties, and they let Souths back into it, which they shouldn't have been. Not after the first 10, 15 minutes. I thought that Harry Grant was good, though. I thought Harry Grant coming off Origin put in one of his better performances of the season. Grant Anderson, I feel like, has gone under the radar in terms of being a good piece for a good team because the Melbourne have been missing Will Warbrick for months and months now with, I think, concussion-related issues and missing Coates to Origin and then having Farlongo out and then missing Meany. Anderson has been a stalwart of this backline and he has put together some very, very good performances. It's good to see that these... I suppose it's good and bad because it's good players that are playing well, but we know their time is limited, but other teams aren't going to want to pick them up for one reason or another. So I think that Grant Anderson needs to be recognised for how important he has been for this Melbourne backline, especially now without Jack Howarth as well. I think he's been one of the most important pieces for any team this season. And Eli Katoa continues to be Eli Katoa. He's one of the most consistent second rows in the competition, punched out another 170 meters here with 35 tackles. I think the big talking point for mine out of this game was the defense of Suafar Longo. He was not great, hence why Alex Johnston scored 4 tries. So if you're Melbourne, you're hoping that you can put someone on that wing that isn't him, at least for mine, because he's a brilliant attacking player. I have no doubts about that. He is one of the more electric young players, but you can't only be a one-way player in today's NRL. You have to be versatile enough to have great attacking ability, but also have good defensive decision-making and good tackling. Farlongo, in my opinion, has neither of those. So I guess you're hoping that he can continue to develop, and if he does, that's amazing. But for right now, I don't think he is what Melbourne needs on the wing. Unfortunately, they don't really have a choice. So I guess we will see if he can pick that up while he is still in the system. Outside that, I thought Trent Loiero backed up fairly well. There's just a lot of good Melbourne Storm players, but none of them particularly stand out. Like I didn't think Jerome Hughes was anything excellent in this game. I didn't think that Ryan Pappenhausen was anything great in this game. It was a lot of the role players that did a lot of the grunt work and laid the platform for Melbourne to end up winning this game. I said Pappenhausen didn't do anything to kick the game-winning field goal, so maybe that's a bit of a under exaggeration. But I feel like Melbourne should have won this game by more. They should have only scored the same number of tries as South Sydney, and they didn't. So you have to hope that for both of these teams, you hope that the Bunnies can continue to improve as troops come back and they can put these opportunities away and start that win column ticking over. And for Melbourne, you're hoping that they should be able to build off their first 15 minutes and run away with these sorts of games. Because it's happened a couple of times now this year where Melbourne have looked really good at the start and then have kind of fallen off. They've been oddly inconsistent this year. For a Melbourne Storm side, anyway, it's been quite strange to watch. So I'm wondering when it's going to come back and bite them again, because it's happened a couple of times. Like round 4, they lose to the Dragons for some reason. Then they come out and win by 40 plus for the next couple of weeks. And then they lose another winnable game. And they've been doing that cycle for most of the season. So I'm wondering when the next time that they're going to not play to their ceiling and get beaten. They need to hope it doesn't happen in the finals. I doubt it will happen in the finals because it's a Craig Bellamy team, and if they let him down in the finals in what is, I say, could be second last season, but he's going to be coaching until he's 100. Let's face it. He's going to be there with a walking stick and a breathing mask in the coach's box, still yelling and still putting spit all over the window. Uh, but yeah, that's Melbourne. For Souths, you just hope they can continue to improve and get healthy because there will be something there. Broncos Sharks. This is what I expected, funnily enough. This is kind of what I expected to happen because Cronulla have been incredibly underwhelming this season. And they have been for the past few years, to be fair. I don't know what the answer is, but it's not whatever this is. Because you come into a Broncos side that has multiple people backing up off Origin. You have Reece Walsh, who's only in his second game back from a major injury. It's a Broncos team that has not been great for big patches of this season. And you walk into Suncorp Stadium and put together another underwhelming performance. This was an opportunity for them to continue to stay in the top four race because they were on the same number of wins as Melbourne before this game. Now they're a game behind. And it's just, it's frustrating, even as an outside perspective, because I've never been a big fan of Cronulla, but even I can tell that the personnel this team has should be nowhere near as poor as they are. And they're not even that bad. They're still sitting in fifth. And we're all sitting here thinking they're still underachieving in fifth place. That shows how good this roster is and shows how high we know the ceiling of this team is. It's and that's despite people, in my opinion, having their best years of their career. Blake Brayley is probably the form hooker of the competition right now. Scores a try, makes 51 tackles. His service out of dummy half is phenomenal. His running game is great. It's Britt Nickera has had a quiet year, I thought, but you look at people like Braden Hamlin-Uele and KL Iro, who's having a career year, and Sione Katoa, who's a great, great player. Will Kennedy is having one of the best years of his career. They have Adam Fanua-Blake. And we're sitting here with the Sharks in fifth and just losing to a fairly dysfunctional Broncos team. And it shouldn't be happening. It really should not be happening. There is no reason a team with their caliber of forward pack should get that loose through the middle. Like in the final 20 minutes of this game, the Broncos were having their way with Cronulla. They kept finding gaps, especially down the left side. They were tearing that edge apart. The Tony Staggs had an absolute blinder of a day. And we're sitting here thinking that it needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed as soon as possible. Because if they can't, they're going to keep falling in games like this. And all of a sudden, we're not even thinking they're a sniff for the top four. And they need to be really careful now because there are multiple teams behind them that are only one game behind. And considering their next three are the Storm, Dolphins, and Roosters, they could very easily drop two or all three of those games. And then you're thinking, are they going to make the top eight? We should not be thinking this about this Cronulla Sharks squad. Does it go back to Nico Hines? Because he's had a poor year. Do we need to ask questions about whether he is the right halfback for this team? Because he and Braden Trindle have not gelled at all. Like there's two or three games maybe this season where it looked like, oh yeah, they've got it, it's going to work. And then the next week, they both look like they don't know what the other is going to do. They're almost never on the same page. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for Cronulla right now because it seems like they should have all the answers. They've got the perfect squad. Craig Fitzgibbon isn't a bad coach, but maybe he's not as good as we all initially thought he was. I don't know. They lost to Brisbane, who were amazing. However, there were some ref calls in this game that were quite puzzling. There was one late-ish in the game, and I think it directly led to a try of a tackle in Brisbane's own half, I think, off a kickoff. And Jesse Colquhoun makes the tackle and immediately gets square. Like he is dead in line. He's right in front of the guy playing the ball. And the ball gets played. He moves off, makes a tackle, and then it's called for being not square. I don't know where he's not square in this footage. I, if someone else can explain it to me, feel free. But I can't figure out why he isn't square. I don't get it. I'm not going to blame the referees for Cronulla losing because they should not have lost this game. But I am saying that they didn't get much help and Brisbane did. And the funny thing is they didn't need help because they have a guy on their team called Payne Haas, who coming off 60 minutes in Origin, pumps out another 60 minutes here and looks better than he did in Origin. Who is this guy? What planet is this guy from? 200 meters, 9 tackle breaks, 6 offloads, 40 tackles with only 1 miss. What? 4 days removed from Origin, and he does this. It's just ridiculous. Oh, man. I will talk about Payne Haas until the day I die because he is going to go down as one of, if not the best prop forward in the history of rugby league. I thought Tony Staggs, I mentioned before, had a brilliant day. He ran for 200 meters, had 4 line breaks, and broke 10 tackles. This is the Tony Staggs we know. He is such a strong center. He has such good footwork, and there's not much else you can say about him other than they chose to re-sign him first over Selwyn Cobbo. That's what the Broncos think of him. They think very highly of this guy. So all you're going to hope is that he cleans up the sort of rocks games he has, which he can do. He can be fairly inconsistent. He just needs to clean it up, much like his backline partner, Reece Walsh, who I thought was very, very good in this game. I thought he looked excellent. 180 meters, 3 line break assists, 2 try assists, 3 offloads. He looked really, really good. For the second week in a row now, he might be back to his best. We'll wait and see, but right now he's looking really, really good. I thought Brendan Piakura also was pretty effective for Brisbane. I feel like he gets maligned a bit because he got that one naming in the Origin squad that everyone made fun of. And like you watch him play, he doesn't he doesn't have the star power of what you would consider an Origin player to be, but he's just so solid in defense, and his line running is getting better and better as the year goes on, and as his career goes on. I hope it continues to get better because I do like the guy. It's just this game was a good reference to show how Brisbane can wrestle back momentum when it's against them. Like they were down 28-12 in this game, and then they score 22 unanswered points. That's really good, especially when you come to finals football, where there are definitely going to be times in the game when the momentum is against you. And if you can find a way to wrestle that back, that's all you can ask for from a team. I thought Adam Reynolds was good in this game. I refuse to root for them to keep winning on principle because Ezra Mam is still here. But I'm not going to take away from how good they played in this game. I didn't want to talk about this one. Titans Eels. Yep. There was a weird 3-hour gap between the first and second games on Sunday. It was weird. I don't know why the NRL decided to do that. Maybe it was a post-Origin thing. I don't know. Yeah. A massacre took place at Accor Stadium on Sunday. And unfortunately, the Cowboys were the victims. But everyone expected this, right? I've expected it. The Cowboys are the worst team in the league right now. They are not playing like a first-grade team. And the Roosters They are playing like a first grade team, and they looked pretty good here. However, I would be remiss to not mention that there was a period towards, I think, the end of the first half where they'd managed to stop the flow of the Roosters scoring points and they scored some of their own. And I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe there's something they can build on here. Turns out that was just a function of that period of 10 minutes being some of the worst football I have ever seen. It's not that the Cowboys were good, it's that the Roosters were bad because they came out in the second half and completely poleaxed them. What the Cowboys put up in that second half was an affront to football. There is no one on this team that should hold their heads high after this match. It is Tuesday. It is currently 20 past 9 on Tuesday, the 24th of June, and Todd Payton is still here. And why? Because your logic. That's why. I don't know why he's still here. I don't get it. 46% of the ball, 67% completion rate. They ran 400 less meters. They missed 22 more tackles. They conceded 6 more meters per set. They had 10 less offloads and 7 more errors. You could put the Clydesdales out there at this point. They would do a better job. I don't get it. They lost by 34 and somehow that still feels flattering. This team is going to give me an aneurysm. It's bad for my health. Yikes. Okay. Look, mate, okay. Murray Talangi was fine. I mean, he ran 270 meters or something, so that's good. But his defensive decision making is baffling to me. Cohen Hess played with a lot of heart, as did Griffin Neame, I thought. But it's just, there is a systemic issue with this team right now. And you can point specifically at the switch in the halves as the inflection point from where this team went from, oh yeah, they're a chance for the top 8 and a fairly strong chance at that, to holy crap, they're contending for the wooden spoon in a month. It has to end. I'm sorry, something has to give. Someone needs to stop being so stubborn. I don't know who in the organization it is. It's one of two people. It's one of either Jackson Purdue or Todd Payton. One of them needs to stop being as stubborn as they are and move on. Whether that means Todd Payton, I think it's both of them probably. They both decided this. They both decided that, hey, Jackson Purdue should be playing in the 6. And it hasn't worked. And we've seen it not work for week after week after week. And nothing changed. There wasn't any sign. If there was any sign of progression from Jackson Purdue in the halves, I would have no issue with it. But there has been nothing. He has not gotten better. In fact, I would argue he's gotten worse. Did you see his passing game in this game? That's a 5'8" with no passing game. What kind of 5'8" is that? Move him back to the centres or put him in Q Cup, honestly. If he wants to play in the 6 so he can get 6 money, let him do it somewhere else. Because he's killing this team. And Todd Payton's stubbornness to keep him there is killing this team. And the organization and the agent and the rest of the team are cannibalizing themselves by not playing for the jersey. It's broken the team. It's broken the team chemistry. It's broken the team morale because they made him more important than the entire team. But unfortunately, the Cowboys have form for doing this. Especially the playing group have form for tanking, for lack of a better word, to get rid of a coach. It doesn't matter who the playing group is. It doesn't matter who the coach is. It has happened regime after regime after regime. And we're seeing it happen again here. And as a Cowboys fan, I am sick and tired of being in this cycle. Look, if the team was playing with effort and still losing, I would be fine. I would be fine with that because at least then it's a squad composition issue, and that's an issue of there not being many people to sign. That is fine. Or it's a development issue, which can be fixed. But when you have a squad as good as the Cowboys are, and they are losing in the way that they are losing via lack of effort and lack of heart, I can't accept it. I can't. Because you have to look at this and say, okay, pick a side. Do you stand with the coach or do you stand with the players? Who do you think is at fault? It's always the coach. That's why the players can do whatever the hell they want because they know they won't be blamed for it. And we see that happen. This is exactly what happened with Paul Green. And maybe it is Todd Payton. Maybe it is his stubbornness to not change his idea of what this team can and needs to be. I don't know. It needs to be fixed soon because otherwise the season will be lost. He's back. The sin-bin period has ended. He has returned just in time to talk about what he thinks about how the Cowboys are going right now. Makes sense to me.
No, they're not. Look, we're chatting with some people at trivia, and I agree exactly what they were saying. There's just no effort. And you can take a loss if they're trying, but they're not trying. Maybe two or three of them are trying. The rest of them are just trying, as it were.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They do just enough to not get dropped. At least some of
I
them.
don't know how many of them are doing enough to not get dropped, to be
Well,
fair.
I feel like they just have nobody else.
They're just, look, there's no effort, there's no heart at the moment. You don't lose to the Roosters, who are obviously okay, but they're not like the top ranking team, by that much if you actually put in efforts. I mean, Tom Dearden cannot drag his team kicking and screaming, and nobody else is coming with him, except maybe Cohen Hess.
Maybe Cohen Hess, Griffin Name.
If maybe when he's on, and maybe Murray, who ran the most meters randomly for any player.
He had to because the rest of the forward pack was useless.
Yeah.
I was talking about it before. It's just frustrating.
It is.
Because we've seen this movie before. And I'm getting tired of it. Reruns never work. You get sick of seeing Seinfeld reruns on TV? I do.
Don't you hate people who answer their questions? I do.
Exactly. That's exactly my
No, it's like, yeah. If the effort isn't here this week with, I think, like we were saying, the team, Peyton's in trouble.
Oh, yeah. I think we'll talk about this later, but the loser of Cowboys Titans, the coach is going to be gone in the next month.
Yeah.
I reckon.
I don't think it's going to be too hard.
But there was another team in this game, being the Sydney Roosters, who played well.
They played well because the Cowboys allowed them to play well.
They did well, putting up no resistance. Enjoy the free win. And I guess the biggest beneficiary of the lack of resistance was one Mark Nalonga-Nicolasi. He is great. He's a great, great player. Ran for 250 odd meters, scored 2 tries, broke 8 tackles. He was great in this game.
It helped, like we said, it helps when the opposition
doesn't care,
doesn't really try.
Exactly. Although I feel like
for as far as you like,
I think the Cowboys could have been trying 110%. Tedesco still would have done what he did because he's James Tedesco.
Tedesco always does this stuff.
He's so good.
He's turned back the clock a bit, hasn't he?
He's my Dally M front runner right now.
I think if he
keeps him and Isaiah Katoa are like this.
Yeah, if he keeps playing like he's playing, he's got every chance.
Roosters are going to find their way to the top 4, aren't they?
Oh, they could. I had him at 6 in my very, very early prediction. I think I've got the closest.
Well, yeah, we'll revisit that at the end of the year so we can all laugh at how stupid we are. And
very stupid.
Coming off a long-term injury, now Fahu White has not missed a beat. He's such a good forward, isn't he?
He is a very good
200 plus meters again, 26 tackles, no misses. I mean, I don't know what else I can say about the Roosters that I haven't been saying over the past couple of weeks. They're just playing so much better than I expected.
Just to make matters worse, Carl Lawton gets suspended for
injuring CY Long for 6 weeks. Yeah, that cannonball was
which is kind of fair.
He tried to do it like 2 other times in the game as well. I don't know what he's trying to do. He doesn't want to play. He wants an excuse to not play. Yeah. Now the Roosters are in the top 8. They're on 7 wins. They have the bye again this coming week. They look poised for a late season charge. Watch out.
Are we going to have the same.
Everyone's going to fall out. We're going to end up with Melbourne, the Roosters, Penrith, and Cronulla in the top four. Wouldn't that be something? After the season from hell, when it comes to trying to pick who's good and who's not, we end up with the same four anyway.
That would be terrible.
It would be horrendous. But it would just prove that there is no good in the world. Great.
Come on, teams, we've got to get back in front of the camera.
Please, can someone? At least Cronulla are the ones you can hope that won't make it because they're not going.
Well, I hope Penrith don't make it either. That's just me.
No, I think they'll make the 8. I don't think they'll make the 4.
And as we've seen, it's very hard to win.
Outside the 8.
Or
outside the 4.
Well, it's impossible to win from outside the 8. But it's nigh on impossible to win from outside the top 4. Nobody's done it yet.
Yeah, so I guess we will see. Although I do think if there is any year it's going to happen, it's probably this year, right?
Stupid.
At least for now, until more teams come in and then it gets even worse.
And so now the Cowboys have the equal worst
defense.
With the next team we're going to talk about in the next game.
Look, I'm not going to hold this game too hard against the Titans. I'm not going to do my usual, I'm so mad that I believe in you. Because as soon as Jaden Campbell goes down, it's kind of a recipe for disaster.
I just enjoyed the style of football Parramatta were playing. It was really fun to watch. I thought they had a lot of fun out there.
Yeah.
I thought the guys that came in for their halves did an admirable
I was incredibly impressed. From what we saw at the beginning of the year, he was serviceable. But Woody Dean Hawkins in this game looked like a really, really good NRL level halfback. I was quite impressed.
I thought they were really good. And I mean,
his kicking motion still hurts my brain, though. He's so weird because he'll do whenever someone will try and do a long, you'll hold the ball down vertical and then just strike the bottom of it. He holds it sideways and lets it spin and then hits it, which seems like a really bad idea in theory, but it works for him. So
it could also make it pretty unpredictable with where it's going to go.
You don't know whether he's going to put up a kick for distance or
one of those funny looking ones. Yeah,
funny looking ones. It's great.
Yeah.
Zach Lomax, I thought played himself to a standstill here.
Yeah, he had a good game.
He had a good game. He actually learned how to kick this time. He went 6 for 6 in this game.
It seems to me that the Origin balls must really suck. Although they can't, because Valentine Holmes kicked all the goals. Yet he couldn't kick more than 2.
I don't know what's going on with goal kicking in Origin. It's so weird.
At least for the New South Wales team, the Queensland team doing all right with it.
Goal kicking as a whole this year, I feel like, has been down. Outside Jermaine Azako, who's been a sharpshooter, there hasn't really been many really good goal kickers this year. It's strange.
Yeah.
I think the big thing for me and Parramatta is Isaiah Ioane. He is really, really progressing really quickly.
He's a good footballer.
I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah, no, he's done very, very well.
A shout out to we talked about Junior Paulo ad nauseum on this show, but the way he continues to get better is he's impressive.
Developing his game, and he's not a young pup anymore.
No, that's what makes it more impressive.
Yeah.
So much for not teaching an old dog new tricks.
Like we talked about earlier on the season, he's lost the weight, 15 kilos, and he looks so good for it. He hasn't lost any of his strength. He hasn't lost any of his power. And he can play longer. And he's turned into a ball-playing forward.
Yeah.
So
it's just so impressive.
Sky's the limit for him.
It's so impressive.
Yeah.
Also, Charlie Geimer, I like shouting him out. I like him as a player. He's not anything amazing, but I just like watching him play. He'll be a cult hero somewhere. I don't know whether it'll be Parramatta, but it'll be somewhere.
Okay, fair enough.
If they keep playing with this amount of effort when Moses and Brown come back, they can definitely have some fun when it comes to the back end of the season because they're not out of it yet.
No,
I mean they could make a charge.
At best, they make a charge, and worst, they hurt other people's chances of making it.
Exactly, they play spoiler, much like the Tigers are doing.
Yeah.
So I'm not. It's just the Eels. They were really fun to watch in this game, like you said. The Titans were for about 25 minutes.
Titans tried hard. Don't get me wrong. They have the effort.
Look, Jaden Campbell went down after, I think, the 25th minute or something. They held in till halftime. They were only down by 2 at halftime, and they were looking good. And I think they just kind of ran out of ideas. when you lose your main playmaker, that is going to happen.
That's definitely a thing. I mean,
It's not great.
they had a couple of good players, though. I thought Loffy Canberra had a good game.
Loffy's just done his thing. I thought Mo played well off the bench. He's
Yeah.
been good. I thought Tino made a good impact when he came on.
Yeah.
David Jolliffe has been sneakily really good for them in the past 18 months. So
he's good.
wherever he ends up going, I think he's on contract at the end of this year. Wherever he ends up going is going to have a good one there. Bo Fermor tried his best. He can't kick, but, I feel so bad for him.
Well, surely they could have somebody else.
Well, their backup kicker is usually Brian Kelly, but he was dropped for this game. So,
should let it be Tino, let him have the kick.
Why not at this point?
Well,
Surely Philip Sammy can kick.
I think so. One of the things is that
Chris Randall, he seems to be
maybe
able to
Loffy can kick. Who knows? I mean,
it's look, he got one of them. And he got really close to one of the sideline ones.
Yeah, look, he struck them okay, just didn't strike them straight.
I thought he played well overall in this game.
Well, look, you get what you get from Bo, right? He's a good player.
Very, very solid.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the Titans, conceding 14 offloads, conceding 8 line breaks, and allowing nearly 50 meters a set is not conducive to winning football games. So,
and even if you lose,
you can't pin that on Johnny Campbell.
No. That's your defensive mindset at that point.
That whole Campbell situation is weird, though, because he got ruled Cat 1, which means he's automatically ruled out for the rest of the game anyway. But he passed his locker room HIA, but wasn't allowed to come back. I don't know what the whole thing is. I think he's ruled out for this week anyway. There must have been some sort of delayed concussion.
That's very possible.
It's just weird. I don't like that that's a thing. I don't know. It's stupid.
Especially with such a winnable game coming up.
Yes. If he's not going to...
Yeah, the Cowboys will come out.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Thank goodness that's the last game of the round, so we can delay for as long as possible. Round 17. This will be interesting. There's a few really good games in here. Starting with this one, Penrith the Dogs.
How are you going for Penrith?
I am operating under the assumption that they play with the level of effort that they did against the Warriors, because I have no reason to think that they won't.
Yeah, this is the Dogs.
Yes, and I'm not saying that the Dogs are a bad team.
Dogs win this and do it pretty comfortably in my
We will see. Yeah. In terms of the teams, the Origin contingent, all of it is back for Penrith. So Cleary comes in, Brad Schneider drops to the bench. Alamotti and Eisenhuth also drop out for Martin and Yo. Laurie and Toller drop out for Edwards and someone else who I can't remember. That's helpful. Very great. Isaiah Papali'i keeps a starting role due to the aforementioned suspension of Scott Sorensen.
Mm-hmm.
Similar story for the Bulldogs. Their Origin contingent is also back. So Jacob Carraz moves back to the wing to facilitate Stephen Crichton. Lockie Galvin moves to the bench for Matt Burton to come back in. And Curtis Moran drops to the reserves as Max King returns and reinforces the forward pack. Penrith, 2-1 at CommBank against the Bulldogs. I said this before. With the combined return of all their Origin stars and the amount of effort that they showed in beating the Warriors last week, it gives me genuine cause to tip them here.
Do you think, now, I'm just spitballing, I could be wrong.
We are accustomed to Cowboys getting good players back and then completely throwing in the towel and expecting them to do everything.
Well, no, I don't know, but do you think maybe the younger guys were playing with a bit more enthusiasm to try and push for their claim, and when the other guys come back, it might not be quite as energetic?
I would agree with you, if not for the fact that most of these guys have played a decent amount of first-grade football regardless, because like Brad Schneider was at the Raiders for a while, and he's played multiple games starting halfback for Penrith over the past few years. So Alamotti has been starting for Penrith over the past year or so. Eisenhuth's been a good bench player for them. Dane Laurie's always been the replacement for Dylan Edwards. The only one I can agree with you with is Trent Tullalau, but even he's had shots for the 7 jersey and hasn't really staked his claim. So I get where you're coming from. I see no reason for Penrith, who now have a legitimate shot at pushing for the top 4. I see no reason for them to just not put in the same effort again.
Yeah, but I also think that the Dogs will probably put up a bit more of a fight than the Warriors did.
They got the bye last week, didn't they?
Yeah, so they'll be fresh.
We know that means it's about 50-50 whether they win or lose.
Well, yeah, it was the Dogs. I still think...
Look, I have no qualms.
The Dogs of 2025 aren't the same as the Dogs of previous like iterations, right? So
Even last year's ones.
no, I think they're better than that.
That's probably fair.
So I think the Dogs win. I'd like to say by about 8, 10. It could be more, could be less, but I think the Dogs have got enough to beat Penrith.
I think that's fair. I'm just very intrigued to see what they do with Lockie Galvin, the Bulldogs. I still don't know whether they know what they're going to do right now.
Kind of weird, right? Because you've got
strange.
Burton there,
And
who's
Sexton,
obviously their 6.
and Sexton, who's been shooting the lights out, really trying to keep his job. He's doing a good job of it.
So where does Galvin fit?
Do they do that?
He's here 14.
Or do they do that thing that they did against, was it Parramatta, when they bring Reed Marnie off and shift Sexton to hooker for 20 minutes?
Possibly.
Maybe. I don't know. That shouldn't be the long-term plan for him, though.
I think he's more than that, yeah.
I get going either way on this one. It's a coin flip for mine.
You just want Penrith to be there.
This is true.
And I don't.
I know you don't.
So, because Penrith,
I think you like the Bulldogs.
I like them better than Penrith.
Oh, well, that's not a high bar, I suppose.
No. Another Dogs.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Another interesting game here. It's the Eagles-Titans at 4 Pines. Tom Trbojevic has been moved to centre officially. There was chat about this in the preseason. They talked about, to protect his hamstring, should they move him to centre? Well, they've done it now. Lehigh Hopewadi is the fullback.
Yeah, well, they could be worse.
Which is fine. Yeah. And Ruben Garrick shifts to the wing. Which, he started as a winger, so it's not unfamiliar to him.
He has a big body for a winger, but anyway, yeah.
And other news for them, Lachlan Croker is out for, it feels like, the millionth time. So Jazz Tavanga starts at 9, and Homole Olakawatu's injury moves Corey Waddell to the starting side, and Jake Simpkin comes onto the bench. For the Tigers, Dream Buller is sidelined with a hamstring injury that he suffered apparently on the last play of his game against the Raiders, which is just the worst.
That's the Murphy's Law.
It is Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
So Keith Mason moves to fullback, and Latu Fainu gets his start at halfback. Alex Seyfarth and Jack Bird swap roles, so Bird starts and Seyfarth comes off the bench, and Tony Sukkar joins the bench. The Tigers' record at 4 Pines overall is 3-11, which is not good.
No.
I don't know what to make of the move for Tom Trbojevic. I really don't. I mean, it feels like, at least for a couple of weeks, the attack could be a bit how's your mother.
Mm-hmm.
But we have seen Lehigh be a capable fullback.
Yes.
So it's very, very possible that this looks good. It's a good opportunity to see also a full 80 minutes of the Luai Fainu combination. There's interest here for both sides. I like the Tigers forward pack a little bit better.
Yes.
I think I'm going to go with the Tigers to get.
I would like to think they can. I mean, obviously, yes, Fortress Boulevard, which hasn't been that this year, to be fair, but and the Tigers are certainly not playing badly by any stretch of the imagination. So it could go either way. I would like the Tigers to win, so I will tip them as well. But I can easily see Manly still being able to beat them at 4 Pines. But go the Tigers.
The propaganda worked. This game has become really interesting now. Knights Raiders at McDonald Jones Stadium.
Hastings in. Okay, the Knights are going to lose.
Yeah, so Jackson Hastings is in for the crash investigation unit bound Fletcher Sharp, who has injuries to multiple organs, which shouldn't happen in a football game from landing on a football.
Landing on a football. What are you made of, pal?
Whatever that. So yeah, Fletcher Sharp, he'll be out for possibly the remainder of the season.
Some guys need to do that the last time, so
yeah, that sucks for him. Because I love watching Fletcher Sharp play.
Oh, he's very exciting. He'll be
there for a while.
He'll be close to this year probably, or most of this year.
Yeah.
He's stuck in Perth. He can't leave. His injuries are so bad he has to stay in Perth. They've flown his family over because he can't leave the hospital. So it was obviously pretty nasty, and fast recovery, buddy. But I think full recovery. More importantly, it doesn't even have to be fast.
Yeah,
get yourself better.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah,
for
all that thing because without him, I think Newcastle are in a bit of trouble.
It really starts to fall back on the shoulders of Kalen Ponga
because he was another point of attack.
Yeah,
and Kalen now is the point of attack. Because Jackson Hastings is hopeless.
Jack Cogger isn't anything great either. So, yes, it falls to Kalen Ponga to try and drag this team. In others, Jacob Saifidi is back, which is good for that forward pack.
That is very good. The Saifidi bros are very good.
He moves Matt Croker to the bench. For the Raiders, they're resting Hudson Young this week. So Simi Sasungi joins the starting side, and the Noah triplet joins the bench. They've split the last four at McDonald Jones Stadium. In my opinion, last week was a flash in the pan for Newcastle, and without Sharp, it makes the job even harder. I think the Raiders will win this somewhat convincingly.
Yeah, the Raiders win this. I don't think it's particularly close.
Multiple scores, I'm thinking here, which sucks for Newcastle because I don't think they're a bad team. They still defend excellently, so we'll see if they can.
Yeah, but this is a Raiders team who know how good they are at the moment, so it's
they know how to win.
They do. They win stupidly.
Yeah.
So they'll win this one, probably not stupidly. I think they'll just win.
It'll just be
the Knights don't have
normal, nondescript win here.
Yes, the Knights don't have much, unfortunately.
Broncos Warriors at Suncorp Stadium. For the Broncos, it is the same 17. Cobbo is still in the reserves as rumours begin to swirl about a potential mid-season swap with a couple of teams involved, including the North Queensland Cowboys, which I hate. Please don't do it.
I guess we'll see what happens, won't we? I mean,
I think the Dragons were also linked to them.
Dragons were also
kind of been shot down now.
Yeah, so it looks like the Cowboys may well be front runners.
I don't think they'll get in mid-season. I think they'll
have to hold off till the end, which is probably okay to be fair.
6 days to finalise it.
Yeah, that's okay as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he might not like it, but there's not much we can do about that.
For the Warriors, Dal Lesniak is out for about a month and change, so Edward Cossey starts. Also returning is Rocco Berry, replacing Moala Graham-Taufa. Kurt Capel starts, Leka Halasima is reverting to the bench, moving Tanner Stowers-Smith to the 18th man. The Warriors haven't won at Suncorp Stadium since 2018. With Brisbane on the rise, the Warriors definitely need to be ready for a shootout here. I'm expecting lots of points. As for who wins, I don't know. You could put a gun to my head and I could not tell you who's going to win this game.
Well, I think, at least they've been able to train this time without Dallin.
Yeah.
So it won't be like losing them mid-game. And look, Andrew Webster's got them going well. So it's altogether possible they beat Brisbane. Yes, I know Brisbane have been playing well. They played well last week.
They played well a couple of weeks.
So, I don't know. It's one of those sort of coins. I'd like the Warriors to win.
I'm giving the Warriors the slight advantage. However, I can easily see Brisbane winning this game.
Oh, yeah, look, it could go either way. Draw.
30-all draw.
Yeah, well, who knows? I mean,
I'm very intrigued to see how this goes. It will be interesting.
Well, last time they played the Warriors won thanks to Reece Walsh kicking out on the full.
And Metcalf hitting a 50-metre penalty goal.
Yeah.
Yes, so that'll be interesting to see.
No was, but it'll be a good game, I think. That'll be one of the better games.
It'll be a great game. Unlike the next one. Dragons Eels at Wynn Stadium. Oh boy.
Slinger!
Fun. For the Dragons, Corey Allen, Christian Tuipulotu, and Valentine Holmes are all back on deck. They replaced, in no particular order, Nathan Lawson, Tyrell Sloan, and Sagranis, who made his debut last week. He was fine.
That's a very Greek name.
He is very Greek, yes. Jayden Stewart is also back. Viliami,
that's good.
That is good for him. And Viliami Fafita plays his first game of the season, pushing Blake Laurie and Loco Pacifica Tonga out. There's lots of Fafita.
How many Fafitas are there?
It's like
who's he related to?
I think he's related to Andrew.
Okay. Well, that means you'll then therefore be related to David, who is also related.
Yeah, that's right. Probably all related somehow.
Probably all related, yeah.
For the Eels, Dylan Brown's back, so that's good for them.
That is, yes. Hopefully he can get his mojo back.
Moves Joash Papali'i to the bench. Jordan Samarani takes Will Penasini's spot for a dangerous throw charge. He's gone for 3 weeks, I think.
Wowzers, okay. Although, yeah, I remember that looked pretty bad.
Riley Smith is also suspended for a couple of weeks for, I think, a similar thing. Yeah. St. George haven't had a home match against the Eels in 6 years. I don't know how this happens.
That's really poor.
It's really bad on the NRL's part, isn't it?
Really poor.
The only one in recent memory that was a Dragons home game was a blowout win. So I'm expecting only one of them has been a blowout. So I'm expecting this to be a close-ish one. The Eels are on the up and up. The Dragons don't seem to be. I think the Eels can get up here.
I think the Eels win. I think if they play with the same enthusiasm they played with against the Titans, I think they win.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. If they do their same style of just offload
to
yeah. And the Dragons' defense isn't great. You're going to find gaps, especially I think around Valentine Holmes. That'll be interesting to see.
He's your favourite player, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
You don't like
He's
him.
not a good defender. He just isn't.
Yeah, I know.
Neither is Moses Suli either. Both edges are pretty weak when it comes to defense. And
They're both very good in attack, I suppose. But yeah.
yeah,
I think the Eagles win. Yeah, I think Eagles. I don't know how much by,
I
but
don't mind the Eagles. I think they're okay.
yeah, they're all right.
Dolphins Rabbits at Suncorp Stadium. So for the Dolphins, Jack Bostock is unfortunately sidelined with an ACL tear for the rest of the
That
season.
sucks,
It
right?
sucks. It really does.
He was just starting to really get going there.
The Dolphins were starting to get going, so he was
Yeah.
always going to go with them. So Junior Tupou gets first crack at that wing jersey.
Okay.
He had a couple of games at the beginning of the season there, so that's not really a surprise.
Okay, yeah.
Josh Kerr is recalled onto the bench and replaces Oblak Taufa. So that's the Dolphins. Fairly standard changes, nothing particularly.
That shouldn't disrupt them badly.
For the Rabbits, Campbell Graham and Cody Walker are back. Big ins for them.
Yeah.
So Jack White moves back to centre and Isaiah Tass drops out. Aitken moves to the second row, pushing Ryan Gray to the reserves. Peter Marmazelis is also back via the bench, and Liam LeBlanc is replaced.
You be saying that. You like
I know,
him.
I like Liam LeBlanc. I think he's great. The only game at Suncorp the Bunnies have won. They played each other earlier this year. The Bunnies won. Bunnies to win again.
No.
Oh, damn it.
You can think that.
I just think that they're so much better than it seems.
I just think, I know you called last week a reflection of pan for the Knights. There was a bit of an aberration to the way the Dolphins have been playing as well. So they can get their mojo back this week. Christian Wolf has them going all right. So
we'll see. They have a propensity to
at
the end of this.
I think when they started up here, they actually started low and have moved up, which is kind of the opposite trajectory that they normally do.
I suppose.
I'm hoping for a Dolphins win. I can definitely see the Bunnies winning, but I'm hoping for a Dolphins win.
Fair enough then. This game's always fun.
Storm. It's a very good game.
It's always fun.
Yep.
For the Storm, Xavier Coates is back on deck after being rested post-Origin, so Grant Anderson moves to the centres, which comes at the perfect time to cover the sick Jack Howarth.
He's sick with
illness, apparently. It's probably mono or something.
That's very descriptive. He's sick with illness.
Brilliant.
Wow, thank you.
It'd be a bit fearmongering if he had the day.
Let's go. I'm going to change my fucking slide again.
I had a rant about Liam Henry before. So that's fine.
He's an idiot. Anyway.
For the Sharks, Oregon Kaufusi is back after being a late out last week, so Braden Hamanueli is benched and Hohepa Pudu is forced out. Melbourne have won 5 of their last 6 against Cronulla at Amy Park. Cronulla are underachieving again this year. I can't see Melbourne being as bad as they were against South. They're going to win fairly comfortably here.
It helps getting Munster and Co back.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm expecting them to win by 20-ish points. This will be a big one.
Yeah, Melbourne, look, I know that Cronulla have been a bogey side for them recently, but they're not going as well this year.
That's Shark Park. Maybe. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, go Melbourne.
Go Melbourne. I never thought I'd say that. Look, Craig Fitzgibbon is kind of becoming to me what Adam O'Brien is for the Knights, where he is not a good coach but has a decent roster. So I guess we will see if that changes anything. And then, Tech Bowl time. 2 teams that could not give a crap about football. The Titans and the Cowboys at Seabus. So this game is going to be played in front of 5 people. In front of 5 people, which is the family of, I don't know, Jalen DeGroot or something.
Yeah.
So
25,000 people tops.
Dayton Campbell's concussion had him out, so Tom Weaver starts at halfback. Tino starts, pushing Chris Haas back to the bench. That's the only changes for the Titans. For the Cowboys, something far more important happened. Thank goodness. It's finally over.
Heard you is back to the centres where he needs to be.
Thank you. He's been told to suck it up and just play what his best position is. He's back at centre. They've disguised it as a short-term plan due to centre depth concerns, but we all know it's because he's shit. We all know it, Todd. Stop lying to us.
He's not a fish. He can't be a six.
He is.
He has no kicking game. He has no passing game. He can't defend. Anything else? His running game that he has is stymied because he's got no space.
Exactly.
So he's not a six.
Yep.
Leave him at 3 where he's got a 4, whichever one he is, where he got a bit more space to use some of that, leg work that he's got.
So I guess we'll see how that goes. So his halves, Dearden is named at 7 and Clifford's named at 6, but I'm certain their roles on the day are going to be backwards. I think Clifford's clearly the halfback.
Yeah.
Braden Burns is out, and to facilitate the Purdue move to the centre, and Zach Levitt switches to the right side, which is his preferred side.
Better at, yes.
He says last year there.
Yeah, right? Good there. He had a good job.
Yeah. Origin boys Ruben Cotter and Reece Robson both come back. Kai O'Donnell and Tom Duffy drop to the reserves. Carl Lawton is suspended. So a few fun changes there. That's the other reason Tom McHaley, I think, still has a bench spot, which is good. We like him.
Yes, we like Tom McHaley. He just loves playing football.
Yes.
It's nice to see him out there because he just runs hard.
I think he could have fun against this Titans bench. Right? The Titans have won 4 of their last 5 against the Cowboys at Seabuster.
I know, the Cowboys find it hard to win there for reasons unknown to anybody.
Yeah, the Cowboys can't seem to win here, and they're terrible. But Jaden Campbell is missing, so...
And that team is also terrible.
That team is terrible, and the Cowboys team actually kind of makes sense now. So I have no idea. My pessimism brain says the Titans are going to win this.
I've got a 36-20.
Yes, because the Cowboys still can't defend. This is me being extremely pessimistic. Funnily enough, that's worked a bit this year.
Well, it's just because the Cowboys have been crap.
Yeah,
hopefully this week it turns around.
I'm saying this now. I'm making the guarantee that whichever team loses this, coach is gone within a month. Put that in writing, quote it to me, and come back to this in a month when either Des Hasler or Todd Payton is getting payment from Centrelink instead.
Okay, see you later, Des. If that's the case, I actually think.
You think they can get?
I think they'll do a.
I think it's definitely possible. I just don't know whether the chemistry that they had at the beginning of the season, when this was the combination, has been ruined by the extended period of time where it hasn't been used. Whether there is any goodwill in this team left to actually play decent effort-filled football now.
Well, I'm hoping the return of a couple of the steel people in the middle will help their defence a little bit.
Let's hope so.
Because, Cotter and Robson are at least pretty good defenders. So
yeah, well, this game is must win. For both teams, this game is must win.
Yeah, and I think, look, Cowboys are still missing some players as well,
Who are they missing? They're missing Leah, who's out. Tamalolo, yeah, I suppose.
But to be fair, Hess has done an admirable job in his absence.
Playing better than Tamalolo ever was, in my opinion.
Well, not ever.
Okay, well, this season anyway.
Oh, probably, but
I guess we'll see. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm tipping the Titans simply based on...
they've got a bit more speed, obviously, and that's something the Cowboys are going to have to... That's where the defence is going to have to be a straight line, which they've never been able to do. So,
I'm going to be roughing up out of the line 20 times and letting Philip Sammy score 6 tries.
He's a winger.
He play wing? He's something he plays center.
I'm pretty sure he's the right one.
Oh, no, that's right. Fafita is the centre now.
Yeah.
He'll score 6 tries.
No, I think Loffy might score 6 tries.
Yeah, he'll just run around them.
He'll be up against...
He'll be on Talangi's side.
He's on their right.
He's on their left. Oh, no, wait, no.
He'll be on the end.
He'll be on
the Derby side. Yeah. Just go high. Kick it over him.
Yeah, that'd be the idea, right?
Because he's not tall, and Derby's definitely tall.
Yeah, so that's exactly what they should do.
Yep.
If you ever see this, which I know you won't because no one ever watches us, kick over Loffy Khan Pereira, please, God. Please.
Look, it worked in the Origin.
It did work in Origin.
And that was a Dearden kick.
Yeah.
So do that.
Why not?
You should do that because, Derby's a aerial threat.
He's an aerial threat. And he's decent under the line.
He is. But now you've got people like Hess, who's also a bit of an aerial threat. You've got Nene. You've got Clifford, who is also an aerial threat.
Them all on that side. And what they need to do is they need to do, in rugby union when they do lineouts and just
lift them up. What if they had to do that?
Throw him up in the air.
Yeah, make it the light guy. Whoever that is.
Yeah.
There's definitely a path to the Cowboys winning this game. They have to, like you say, get back that magic that they had prior to the big change.
Yes,
Do they even want to?
that's
That's a big question.
if they
right?
play with no effort this week, it's over.
You know that Todd has lost the dressing room.
This is me for you. You are a North Queensland Cowboy.
He's been here before.
He
I
has
say,
been here before.
when we actually won.
Can't get it's going to happen.
Yeah, well,
But that's round 16 in the books and round 17 really poorly previewed because we have no idea what we're talking
we do
about.
apologise for all the garbage that's just come out of our mouth. The only one that I think is the most likely will be Melbourne over Cronulla.
Yeah, that's the one that seems the easiest.
Yeah, maybe the Raiders over the Knights.
Yeah.
But then anybody over the Knights when they're missing their main attacking weapon.
Who knows? They beat the Dolphins, losing him halfway through the game. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
I give in my tipping. Don't listen to me. My tips are shite.
This league is great. Rugby league, man, the greatest sport on the planet.
Hardest thing to tip.
As long as you ignore the guys in the black and orange who keep raising flags. Actually, I thought they were okay this week, bar the
Penrith one.
I was going to say bar the Cronulla Brisbane one that you whinged about a lot as it was happening.
Oh, there was a bit of that. Yeah.
I talked about the Jesse Colquhoun not being square at marker thing, which I disagree with.
He was fully square.
Definitely square at marker.
I don't know what that referee was looking at.
I have
Listening to the crowd. Oh, he must have been square.
They need to give a raise to that tough judge who perfectly called Will Kennedy saving that penalty kick on halftime. That was awesome.
Oh.
He nailed that. He was 20 metres away.
The thing is, and it was like he was inside the line by this much, and the ball then bounced about that much inside the line. So he did a very, very good job. Give him a raise.
Give him a raise.
Make him the referee.
Yeah.
At least he's watching the game.
Yes.
More than I think some of them are doing. Anyway.
Now we're done. Yeah. Finally. Part 2. We're done.
Like us, subscribe, press the like button.
If the Cowboys continue to suck, you'll definitely enjoy what happens around here over the next few weeks because it'll just be me screaming and crying and throwing up.
Which is what we get on a regular basis.
Okay, it's not that bad. Ask the people who sit around me at Cowboys games. It's not that bad.
We can have a bit of fun too.
We have fun. We have fun laughing with opposition fans.
Well, that's all we can do.
Otherwise, we might cry. Okay, we're done. Catch you guys.
See you next week.